Welcome to Draft Dreams, an Inside the Birds presentation profiling NFL draft prospects chasing their big dreams. I'm your host, Andrew DiCecco from InsideTheBirds.com, and with me today, a very interesting prospect, Furman tight end Mason Pline. Mason, thank you for spending some time with me today. How's everything going?
Going very well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we start with the first order of business, discussing your pro day, which was April 9th. Now, that's a little bit later than some, but folks may not be privy to and the injury you sustained at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, just small tweak to my knee, low-grade MCL sprain in the Shrine game. Wasn't fortunate, wasn't anything serious. Just had to take a few weeks off of training and wasn't quite ready to go for March 11th, the previous pro day that we had scheduled. So just ended up pushing it back and doing it at Furman. Had to be outside, but made the best of it. So
Yeah, as I understand, the conditions weren't great. I think it was raining. If I'm correct on that, can
yeah,
you sort of
yeah.
set the scene for those listening?
Yeah, it it poured from about it rained pretty steadily from about 6 a.m. till 4 p.m. So we really kind of in it, and it was wet all day, but it is what it is. You can't control it. You play games in the rain, you play them in the snow. So I was part of it and got through it. So
What was the rehab process like over that month, just to make sure that you were ready or able to do everything that you needed to do?
just a lot of physical therapy, making sure the everything's strong around it, and then I was walking on it like within a few days. So it really wasn't too what's the word I'm looking for? Too extraneous, on it. But it was therapy 4 or 5 times a week, and then as soon as I was able to get back on the field and start working into some of the other drills and stuff that other guys were doing as far as the speed work goes, and then doing some routes, lateral movements, those kinds of things. I was doing it as soon as I could. So they did a good job. I was with the therapist. We had a therapy clinic right there attached to our training facility, so they're talking daily, and just going back and forth between them. It was good.
Now, there were 16 teams on hand for that. I believe one of them was the Eagles. What has your contact been with Philadelphia throughout this process, and what have your experiences been?
I haven't talked with them since the Shrine game. Some teams handle things differently. Some are very vocal, reaching out constantly. I've had quite a few of those, and then I've had other teams that called my agent and said, "Hey, that we really like him," this and that, and then I don't, but I might not ever hear from them. So it just depends on how each team handles it. But I talked to them at both the Hula Bowl and the Shrine Bowl. Had great conversations with them. So we'll see. But no, I haven't heard from them as of recently. But you never know.
I wanted to go back to the Shrine Bowl, which you mentioned at the top, and how crucial that was for a player like yourself didn't have the traditional background to go toe to toe with some of the premier talent in college football.
Yeah, that's why I ended up getting that invite the Thursday before the Hula Bowl, and still wanted to go to Hula just because, like you said, my background being from a basketball background, don't have as much film, as many reps, as much experience as a lot of these guys. So just exposing myself to more and more, as much as I possibly could in a short amount of time, and then being able to show that I can hold my own and exceed and succeed and excel against these top level top notch guys, and it was a great experience.
So let's go back to Fowler, Michigan, where it all began. Basketball, I assume, was your first love. What
Actually
was
baseball, but
oh, baseball?
I
Okay.
was a big baseball guy growing up. Basketball was right there too. I played all three growing up. So
And what position did you play in baseball and basketball?
baseball, I played pitcher, catcher, and shortstop primarily, and then basketball. Once I got to college, we were a 4 out 1 in offense, so I was primarily a stretch four. If we went small, I could play the five. If we went real big, I could play the three if needed to, but primarily a stretch four.
So I assume you were probably dunking on dunking on people at the high school level and showing out, and you had hoop dreams, obviously. What kind of schools were courting you out of high school and what led you to pursue basketball instead of baseball, which you said that you loved as well?
Yeah, I mean, I had quite a few bit of interest for both sports. I started getting offers for basketball when I was a sophomore in high school. I had talked to a lot of the MAC schools, a few of the Atlantic Coast or Atlantic A10 teams, like Duquesne and those kinds of things. Had a lot of D2 offers, a couple, a D1 offer from Air Force. But ultimately, I was one of those tweener guys where wasn't quite big enough to play the position I was at the Division 1 level, but wasn't quite laterally quick enough to guard the smaller guys that I'd have to at that level as well. So had ended up with a lot of D2 offers. Baseball, I had interest, a lot of camp invites, a few offers, but ultimately, baseball they don't have the athletic scholarship money that basketball does, and these were full ride scholarships that I was being offered. So I loved both sports, but ultimately, went the basketball route, had a phenomenal experience with it. So.
So you didn't play football at all in high school.
I did, I did. I was recruited for football as well, but it was real late. It came on real late. It was more so like a come to our elite camp kind of thing. I had a junior day visit to Michigan State, which is like it was a very informal thing. There's a lot of guys there. But it was mostly just camp invites, those kinds of things. I never really garnered the interest that the other two had. And maybe being a real small school had something to do with it. Maybe it didn't. I have no idea. But ultimately, just ended up going the basketball route.
Now you're a bigger guy. Were you a tight end back then, or were you more like a tackle or a linebacker?
No, I played tight end, defensive end.
Okay. So you go to Ferris State. What was it about Ferris State that made it the right fit in your mind?
The coaching staff first and foremost. Coach Bronkema was just coming off. They just won the national championship in basketball the year before I got there in 2018. So phenomenal, proven coaching staff. He'd won the conference four years in a row, and then just talking with him, just what he values and what he expects of his players and what he wants his players to expect to him. He's a phenomenal coach, great person, and I had a phenomenal experience with him. He made it feel like home for me. So very very tight knit family atmosphere up there, and it was great.
Was it what you expected when you got there and you started getting involved with the athletic program, basketball and all that?
Yeah, but like there's definitely an adjustment phase, the speed of everything, each level you go up, the speed's gonna get quicker, it's gonna get faster. So there's always an adjustment period. But as soon as you're adjusted, and the upperclassmen were phenomenal at getting us, we had a big freshman class. So the upperclassmen were great at getting us up to speed on everything, letting them know what they expect from us as well, just like what Coach, Bronkema expected from us. So there's always an adjustment phase. It definitely is faster, but it was great.
How do
Good
you feel
transition.
how do you feel you handled the adjustment initially?
Pretty good. The basketball is so different. It's such a long preseason and a long postseason. It's just a long season in general. So preseason, you starting right away with 12 weeks of preseason before actual practices can actually start. First week on campus, you're starting preseason workouts and conditioning and stuff like that. So you have that time to adjust. It's a little eye opening. It can be overwhelming and a little eye opening for freshmen that I'm sure, but I had a great experience with it. We had a couple guys in my class that were pretty mature about it. And like I said, we had a really experienced upperclassman that was really good about it. So.
Did you have a go-to move on the court, go-to shot, anything like that?
Yeah, I probably did it a little too much, but I always pick and pop. That was my go-to thing. I could shoot it a little bit. Coach Bronco will always say I didn't roll enough, and he's probably right. But definitely, I definitely favored pick and pop.
Now you also played some football at Ferris State before you transferred. Was it more of a longing for the sport? Like what made you decide that you wanted to double dip?
So I remember going to my first game as a freshman, and everybody's on campus. It's a sold out game, night game, and seeing the atmosphere and stuff. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like I need to get back to this someday. And then then it started when Coach Anise and Coach Rock, our assistant head coach, started messing with me in the facility, and I think it started as a running joke where they would kind of make jabs at my head basketball coach and like come play tight end for us and those kinds of things. And finally, I took them literally because ultimately I knew that the NFL was a realistic goal of mine in the future, and I took them literally once that COVID season hit, and I asked him about, hey, like, how do you like, would you actually have me? And he said, yep. And so we sat down, had everything worked out. I was originally going to dual sport, but then when COVID changed all the eligibility rules and stuff like that, kind of had to resit down, talk about it, and I had to choose one or the other. And knowing that football was the end goal, the NFL was the end goal, just chose the football route and had a phenomenal experience with it so far. So.
Now, I want to go back to something you said a moment ago that in your mind, the NFL was a realistic goal. What in your mind led you to believe that?
Well, you see, like, from a basketball guy's standpoint, you see all the stories of basketball guys that transition to football. I mean, you have the big names like Antonio Gates and Jimmy Graham and Julius Thomas. Like in general, there's just a lot of guys that have been able to make that transition. They might not be the Hall of Famers that those three guys might be, but there's just a lot of guys that have had a lot of success in those transitions. And so I knew, with my athletic ability, I was athletic for my size, and I knew, given, I learned some things, learned the techniques and all those kinds of things. I'd always been pretty natural with my hands. I have pretty good hands catching the ball. So I'm given the right situation, I knew that I would be able to succeed in that area too.
So a lot of your ability is inherent, but you even said you hadn't played that much in high school and there was a layover, but until you played football again, what was the transition period like for you, Mason, going from the court, the hardwood to the gridiron?
Yeah. Ferris, it was pretty smooth. Unfortunately, yeah, unfortunately, that for me, their tight end doesn't have a ton of responsibility in the offense. It's more of a short yardage run block kind of personnel packages that we used them in. So there wasn't a ton to learn for me, but with what I did have to learn as far as the speed of the game and certain techniques and stuff like that, that we had a really experienced team, a lot of fifth and sixth year seniors. So they were phenomenal at, getting me up to speed. And I was already previously friends with a lot of those guys, so they were phenomenal at, getting me up to speed, helping me learn things, bringing me along. But like I said, there wasn't a ton for me to learn as far as offensively and schematically, just because there wasn't a huge role for the tight end in that offense. But which is ultimately, why I ended up at Furman. But.
And then you end up going to Furman. What made that the right choice? What was the big draw for Furman?
Yeah, so Coach Verna found me on Twitter. He just asked for my film, and then him and Coach Roper ended up getting me down there on a visit. And they were returning 20 of 22 starters on a 10-3 team, and tight end was one that they needed back. And the big thing for me was offensive style and stuff. Making sure I wasn't putting myself in the same situation that I had just left. And so, they run a pro style offense. Their tight end from the previous year, he's more of a receiver body, but their tight end from the previous year had 73 catches in the season. So it was a big guy to replace. And there's the role they saw me playing in the offense and the vision they saw for me. They sold me on that, and it was a big learning curve, definitely. But I wouldn't be here without him. It was a great experience.
Well, I tip my hat to you because you pretty much were banking on that one season to put it all together and give yourself a realistic opportunity to make it to the NFL.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I didn't have a lot of the film. I don't have that a lot of the other guys have. I have a fraction of the reps that a lot of guys have. But, like I said, I think it goes to show, me being able to go to those all-star games with, behind the eight ball a little bit compared to some of those other guys and still being competing and beating guys and stuff like that. I think it shows a lot. So.
How did basketball help correlate your game onto the football field?
Oh man, there's countless ways. I think that and wrestling, wrestling is another big one that is another. I never wrestled, but that's another one that I think is a big coordinates well with it. But for as far as basketball, there's a lot of similarities you can take. Attacking a pass is just like, attacking a rebound, high pointing it, catching using your hands, don't catch it with your body, those kinds of things. And then like my old receivers coach from Ferris State used to tell me, he's like, a release move off the line of scrimmage, when you're in the slot or whatever it is just like making a crossover in basketball just without a ball. It's little things like that. You can draw a lot of similarities. There's countless. It definitely helped me a lot, especially with the lateral movement. You're always shuffling, moving side to side on a basketball court. But I'm sure the most common correlation is the rebounding to high pointing of all. So
Did you feel that there was a learning curve in terms of route running?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I worked a lot in the off season with our receivers coach at Ferris, as soon as I got down there working with the receivers down there. There's still a lot of refining I can do. Um, but especially, there's so much to learn as far as releases, and you can lose ground here to gain ground at the top of the route. Just so many little things that'll win you the route, even though it looks like you're losing, the first half of the route. So there's a lot to learn. But like I said, they were phenomenal at getting me up to speed on a lot of those things, and definitely it was a learning curve, though.
Is there a particular area of your game, Mason, that you wanted to make a focal point to scouts?
Yeah, I mean, just showing that I'm a big body that can move, and as well as isn't afraid of any contact. Especially over the middle. That's where I think I show a lot of value. A big target over the middle as far as in the receiving game. I think I showed over the course of the season that I can be a guy that I'm catching the ball and I don't care if I'm getting hit. It doesn't really matter. And I think at the same time, even if I'm not getting the ball, that's a big target across the middle that takes a lot of eyes away from guys on the perimeter. So I think there's a lot of benefits to that, and I just wanted to show, I can catch the ball in traffic, as well as the uh, the evolution of my blocking in the run game. The growth is coming along there as well. So I just wanted to emphasize those two things for sure.
That's where I was going with it, the running game.
Mhm.
Do you feel like you've made notable strides in that area of your game? It seems like that's more of a willingness and a want-to, I think, from that vantage point.
Yeah, yeah, that probably saw more growth over the course of the season than even the receiving did, I would say. Just because there was a lot of technique that I didn't have, as far as in the run fit game. Whether it's hand placement, pad level, taking the right steps. Whether it's inside or outside zone, those kinds of things. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done. I'm not afraid to say that I got a lot to improve on still, which I think adds a lot of value to me. But I think that that definitely took the biggest leap over the course of the season, and definitely the want to is definitely there. I think it's just not being hesitant because you're concerned about your technique. And I think that'll come with more reps. And my confidence is getting more and more every day, but I think that comes with the hesitancy comes with it'll fade with rep count, being comfortable and securing what you're doing each play. So
What will an NFL team be getting at Mason Pline?
you're getting a big athletic tight end that can really pose a lot of mismatches in the receiving game, as well as come isn't afraid to come down, put his hand in the dirt, and do the dirty work. Got a lot. I'm a little bit more raw compared to a lot of guys probably, but I think that is what the appeal is to me. I think I have you're getting a finished product in a lot of guys. Whereas with me, I think I got a high ceiling. I got a lot of refining to do, but I think like I said, I think that's the appeal. I might not be, a first team all pro guy, first year, but I think that's the appeal to it. And I think I have a lot to offer. So.
What do you enjoy doing off the field?
I'm starting to take up golf a little bit, but I grew up hunting and fishing, in the outdoors. I'm from a real small town in mid Michigan. Grew up, outside, whether playing with or hanging out with my brother outside, whether it's we're out fishing on the lake or going hunting or something, anything like that. So I've always been an outdoors person.
Have you given any thought to what it's going to feel like to get that phone call finally to hear where you're going to be playing at the next level?
I try not to give it too much thought. Just try to I'll worry about that next weekend. Right now just trying to enjoy each day, work out, get my training in, hang out, see my family. I haven't been with my family for a few months, haven't seen them in a while, so get to see my family a little bit, just enjoy the process and be present for each day. What happens next weekend will take care of itself. Whatever opportunity you get, make the most of it. So
Or a week out of the NFL draft after that extraneous process, how will you be spending draft weekend?
just hanging out with my family. They ultimately I wouldn't be here without them either. My parents and my siblings. So just hanging out with my family. And we'll see what happens. But seeing friends and family right now, just good to be home for a couple weeks.
Well, I look forward to seeing what NFL team's going to get you on their roster, Mason. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I appreciate you carving out some time. That's going to do it for this episode of Draft Dreams. For Mason Pline, I'm Andrew DiCecco. Thanks for tuning in.